I'm Amber Reuter, author of the Bean to Bar Mysteries. The first book in that series is coming out in February. I also write the Chocoverse science fiction, and I learned so much about real chocolate makers, chocolate professionals, the whole craft chocolate business, researching those books, that I've decided to do a series of interviews with some of the really cool people that I've met who do things involving chocolate. So my next guest here is not a chocolate maker, although he has worked with chocolate makers in the past. He's a chocolate taster. So let's hear from Glenn about what he does.
Hey everybody, I'm Glenn Petriello. I'm the owner and founder of Chocotastery, your destination for chocolate education and tasting experiences. And so basically, I've had a lot of experience with making chocolate, with being a chocolatier, making chocolate for another company, educating people on how to taste chocolate for the other person's company. And I decided to bring all my talents together and to teach my own classes and to share my experience to help evoke a better appreciation, sometimes maybe even memories back for people pertaining to food and family and friends and other experiences in life, and wrap that all up into tasting, having chocolate tastings. So
awesome.
That's, yeah.
So what made you start Chocotastery?
So I had just come back from working with Indie Chocolate in about beginning of 2018. And I wanted to keep my love for and passion for chocolate alive. And I had, like I just mentioned, I had been a chocolatier for myself. I made my own chocolate bars in my apartment in Hoboken for a little bit, and then I wound up quitting my HR job and going to Seattle and making chocolate for them for a bit. And then when I came back, I wanted to keep everything alive. And this was the only thing that I had left to do was to create and to teach using my own knowledge and experience and putting that all together. And, I literally had a conversation with myself, and I remember just talking to somebody else about this past couple of weeks. Basically, I had a conversation with myself and I questioned, like, where do bakers bake chocolate? And you would say, where?
In their little shops.
A bakery. Let's just say a bakery, right?
Okay.
And then when I questioned myself again, I said, where do people taste chocolate? And then I always knew I wanted to have a play on words with this identity of this company. Mm-hmm. And so I thought Chocotastery, and it's your destination. It could be anywhere in the world. It's so fitting right now. So it brings people together to taste chocolate, to learn about where it comes from, how it's made, bringing it all together to have to follow tasting resources that I've created, very simple and approachable and fun to use, and bringing it all together into an experience that people walk away with their minds blown and just having a better appreciation for what goes into that bar that they just hit. So. Yeah.
So were you doing these things online before COVID, or was it just in person?
I was basically last year I was mostly in person, and towards the end of the year I was doing a lot more just live tastings with friends like in the industry or just outside friends who are interested in chocolate, just to taste a couple of bars of chocolate and kind of just understand how to live stream and understand and master the technology behind like going virtual. And then towards the end of the year, I basically said, this has to be virtual. This has to be online, and there has to be a bigger reach than, you know, doing them in Jersey City where I was living at the time. So that's when like COVID hit in March, and it was, you know, perfect timing with like the stay home with Chocolate Festival. We connected, we had our tasting, and so that was kind of like a kickoff to doing more tastings online virtually.
That's very cool. I know a lot of people are having to completely redesign their business model, but it sounds like what you do kind of lends itself to being online. Have you done anything? I've done a couple of things where people have mailed out boxes of samples. I know you had some samples with the Dallas Chocolate Festival. How has something like that worked for you?
So I thought that the experience went very well. Obviously, I've had a great lesson learned with, you know, shipping in really hot weather to Dallas, but as far as the chocolate tasting experience went, I did, I don't know how many 30-minute sessions throughout that weekend, where I had people attend where they had no idea what they were doing there. They were just like, oh, chocolate, I got 2 chocolate samples, I want to taste them, so let me just like listen in. And, you know, they basically had like no expectations and walked away with a better appreciation for the craft, for the people who were exhibiting, for the chocolate itself. So I think it opens up eyes, and lends itself to, you know, this whole new pandemic and post-pandemic lifestyle that we are quickly growing to feel like it's a new norm.
Mm-hmm. So last time I talked to Erin, she was talking about how one of the biggest things right now that she does is the machines for making chocolate and setting up new chocolate makers. So when you worked making chocolate, were the machines as standardized, or was it still that whole old school, we're going to make a winnower out of a hairdryer kind of thing going on?
So even from when I started out my own chocolate, Glen-made craft chocolate back in 2015, 2016 timeframe, and even with Aaron at Indie Chocolate, we were using, you know, things that like equipment that was out there, right? You had John Nancy, he has the winnower, through his website, Chocolate Alchemy. Diamond Custom Machines, I've worked with them to have the refiners. I know that, you know, we used I think it was the DCM 100, and I had the Premier grinders, the small ones, when I was making my own chocolate. And so, you know, that was a seamless transition. And so, you know, they're approachable pieces of equipment that are a couple $100s a piece, that if somebody wants to go out and experiment, it's doable. It's not, you know, a large piece of equipment, a large refiner, a large tempering machine, where, you know, that could add up to a lot of money very quickly. You know, when you have small at-home equipment, it's very doable to do. So yeah, I mean, that equipment was, you know, it's very easy to use, and, you know, sure that you could have your things that happen to it that you have to fix, but it's a part of the process of making chocolate.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you said you were a chocolatier first and then a chocolate maker. So how did that transition work for you? What was the biggest challenge or the most exciting thing about going from chocolatier to full-blown chocolate maker?
Well, when I was doing my own when I was making my own confections, I had an experience where I tasted like the first real confection. It was a double roasted hazelnut milk chocolate bonbon, and I was like, I remember exactly where I was in my first apartment, and I was like, holy expletive, like this is some really good shit. And I was like, wow. At that point, I didn't really know that this was like maybe 2010 ish.
Yeah.
It had to be around 2010. And I was like 5 years behind. Like I didn't learn about bean to bar process until 2015, and my mind was blown. And then that year, I tasted Madre chocolate. It was their Dominican Republic, so I guess it was La Red at the time, and I tasted like malted milk, and I was like, this brought me back to the drink Ovaltine. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever had it, but
Yeah.
I would like have Saturday like breakfasts with my uncle. Right, he used to live with me back in the Bronx many years ago, and he would make me Ovaltine for Saturday morning breakfasts. And so that brought me back to that moment in life. I get the chills every time I talk about it, but it was like, wow, I never knew chocolate could taste like this. And that was the moment where I knew that making chocolate was something that could allow other people to have that same type of experience. And so I, talked to a couple of chocolate makers who told me, go to John, go to Chocolate Alchemy and follow John Nancy and get this Premier grinder and DCM 100, go to Diamond Custom Machines and get this Baymore roaster and get this Winnoware from John Nancy and all this stuff. And sure enough, I put together a factory in my apartment within no time.
I think it's really cool how kind of close knit the chocolate community is in a way, because I was watching some of the demos they had at the Digital Chocolate Festival out of, they were in England, and Dormouse Chocolate was showing us around the inside of their factory, and I saw some machines with the Indie logo on it. And I had a conversation recently with Arcelia in Brazil of Mission Chocolate. She used to work with Dandelion Chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a number of people who've pioneered all of this stuff. And it just is amazing how open everybody is with the education, letting other people in on it and helping them to make a better product, and always going back to even helping the farmers make a better product. So kind of to segue into chocolate itself, what do you think makes a good tasting chocolate?
Oh, how much time do we have for this interview? I think there's a lot of passion that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
Practically every craft chocolate maker I know, like that box is already checked. Like I know without a doubt, they've made whatever sacrifices they made. They do whatever they need to do to produce an amazing high quality product. I think it's the farmers growing the cacao, those at origin, making sure that everything goes well with harvests, that fermentation and drying is done properly, that you're getting a high quality product, and then getting like those middle folks like Uncommon Cacao and Meridian Cacao, like those folks help those who don't have as much monetary leverage to get cacao at a more reasonable way, and also bring in the chocolate maker's own personality, style of making their chocolate, all the way through from roasting the beans a certain way, bringing out the personalities of the beans, all the way through the details of the packaging. And I will even throw in details of the mold as well, because I've seen a lot more makers do custom molds that are just absolutely stunning. And it's not that they just started and they have that. They've been around for a couple of years. They've established themselves, and now they've taken the next step to improve upon what, like their packaging and their presence has evolved over the years. And so that's like one of the most exciting things is basically seeing how flavors evolve during the tasting itself, and how the makers themselves are growing along with that process. And I also hope that like it's also the people who purchase and follow these makers, that those numbers will evolve and increase with more education, with more things like what you're doing to share to people's stories and to create awareness and entice people to educate themselves on it and to go out and purchase and support these makers. I think it all ties together into like something like super fantastic that that's super exciting.
Okay. So how many, because it sounds like you're talking about tasting a lot of different things. Ballpark, how many bars have you tasted?
Oh, well, I have 2 wine fridges full of chocolate bars. And thanks to COVID pandemic, I did a whole log of my bars that I have currently. And I also had gone through all the bars that I've already had or, that were done with years ago. So I had currently about 400, over 400, almost 450 bars currently in my wine fridges, and probably another like 3 or so hundred packages that are empty over the past maybe 6 years or so. I want to say 5-6 years. So I would say in the realm of at least like 600, or at least not more than that, at least 600. I don't know. I'm throwing a number out there. It's a lot. It's a
You
lot.
think you'll ever get to 1,000?
I'm sure I have. I'm not even counting like going to events and tasting bars like that. But there's just, I buy bars, I taste them, and then they sit in my fridge, and then I wait and I have to just like go through them every so often to see, oh, I haven't tried this one in a while. And yeah, there's some that are old. They're like a year or 2 old that with with time, it just mellows out a little bit. It's not as fresh of a flavor profile, but that could work, and it has its own advantages. But yeah, there's a lot of bars here around me. You just can't see it.
Yeah. So with that many bars in existence and that many makers and all of these new people who are making stuff, I've learned a lot recently about the award winners and all of that. Like the one bar I happen to have on hand was a 2017 award winner of the International Chocolate Awards. So what kind of factor do awards play, or what other factors go into what bars you choose to present to people who are going to take a tasting class?
Yeah, so a couple of different factors. So one is I have personal relationships with a lot of makers. So I tend to like their chocolate a lot. So I do have, I do purchase wholesale from them. I also look for what's unique, what's new. The awards are not as important. It's like a nice to have. I also look for like impact, like like does this company like promote their impact in a certain way, and yeah, so there's a wide variety of factors, and I'm probably missing a couple too. Yeah, that's off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah. So say that I was going to take a tasting class. Can you tell us a little bit about the tasting process? It just so happens that we had the same bar. I pulled up this one and he went and found it in the chocolate fridge.
Within 2 minutes, I'm like, ooh, I got that bar. And I went into one of my wine fridges, and yeah, this one is. I have, I have started it. So as far as tasting goes, my my process is quite simple. So it's like it's 4 steps, and it's not like something that like is mind blowing. You know, a lot of people who have already started, you know, educating people on tasting pretty much have the same steps. It's not rocket science. It's just being mindful and doing it and guiding them in a certain way that provides them that experience. Simple as that. The first, you know, and I'll just use this as an example. So, so I'd look at this and, you know, look at the color and see like what makes it this, this shade of brown, right? It's kind of light. How about yours? Is it like looking in the light?
Yeah.
It's kind of like on the edge of like almost a milk chocolate, and it's a 65% bar, right? So, or is it a milk chocolate bar?
I think they were calling it a milk chocolate bar on, is it Bar and Cocoa? I think is where I got it.
Yeah, because you know what? It's all in French.
Well,
Where is
chocolat
this
au
choice
lait
with
is,
milk?
is chocolate with milk, and beurre de coco.
Yeah, there's milk powder in here.
So
So it is a milk chocolate.
yeah.
All right. So yeah, um, so after learning like, okay, what, like identifying what shade, you know, sharing, you know, what type of variety of the chocolate it could be. If I know, then I'll share it. I'll just high level. You don't want to go down the weeds of, you know, basically going into the intricacies of the entire history of the varieties and all that. It's too complicated. And they just want to be there to just taste the chocolate in like one quick way. They don't want a 30-minute history on, you know, why is it a certain shade of brown. You can get into it later when they ask more about it. And then also go into the snap. So still pretty good snap on this, like 3 years later. And then go in for an aroma. So I would explain, you know, how, what does that snap mean, right? The tempering process, all the cocoa butter fat crystals are aligned, it's at a specific temperature range, all that stuff. High level.
And this one I could smell when I opened the package.
Excuse me?
I said, this one I could smell when I opened the package.
Yeah, yeah. The aroma is quite easy to pick up. So once you break the bar, it releases like it releases the aroma. So the as like the cocoa butter, you know, starts melting, that's when it releases more flavor. So you just holding your hands on it will warm it up a little bit and release some of that fat and releases some of the flavor notes. But this one's quite prominent. And just to note, it's super vanilla-y. Is there like added vanilla in this?
Let's see.
I think. So cocoa from Mexico, cocoa butter, sugar, milk powder. And so
I don't
think they have vanilla
on it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would go into, you know, what aromas do you get and engage with everybody, and then talk about, all right, let's go into the flavors. And oh my God, there's some like general categories of flavors, and then, you know, see what they get and be amazed at how everybody is different in what they taste. It's fascinating.
I'm gonna taste it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I smell the vanilla. I don't taste it much, or that same note that we're getting. I like how smooth it is because of the milk.
So so with Banat, they have a pretty thick bar, right? So it's it's taken me a while to even get through the bar. That's one of my sorry, it's one of my pet peeves. Is like a super thick bar. I like thinner. It's just when you see so many bars, you taste so many bars, you kind of can like have your own kind of chocolate nerding. I guess you want to say like chocolate snob way of doing it.
Yeah.
Where,
Well, I have a reason why I bought this particular bar. Last summer, when we could actually go places before all of this stuff happened, I took a trip to Monterey, and I got to spend a while with a chocolate maker there who was big on education at the local university in Chiapas, which is, you know, a bit south. And I learned that you wouldn't have chocolate growing as far north as Monterey, so that was actually pretty close for him. And he had a whole stack of wrappers, kind of like you do. He kept all the wrappers, and he was showing me different bars that were sourced in Mexico that he thought were really cool. And he actually had the wrapper for this bar. So when I did that interview with Mission Chocolate, I saw that bar was on the same website. And I think that's interesting that now you can order from different small makers on the same website instead of having to pay shipping from each one, which I think is just a really cool resource now. And so I impulse bought.
Cool. I'm just gonna continue my dinner.
It's a nice chocolate, isn't it?
Yeah. So with the flavor notes, I'm getting like it's the chocolate. It's like a light chocolate note. It's not like super rich or whatever, but you get the dairy note is pretty prominent.
Yeah.
And like you said, like there's no vanilla. This is like a pronounced vanilla aroma, but like I don't get that much vanilla in this.
So do people often ask to taste milk chocolates, or are they more likely to choose something darker?
I think majority are for the dark chocolate. Some people are, I don't like dark chocolate. I like milk chocolate, or I like white chocolate. I don't like any other chocolate, or I don't like chocolate altogether. And I'm just like, well, let me prove you wrong. but but yeah, mostly it's in like the 70 range, 70% range. That's kind of like the cultural number, the cultural percentage that is like the healthy percentage of chocolate. But any chocolates could be healthy. So
Antioxidants, moderation, all of that.
yeah, moderation.
So do you have a favorite? Because I like different kinds of chocolate for different occasions. So there's a place for a good dark chocolate, you know, dipped on a strawberry, but I also like caramelized white chocolate. It really depends on like the quality of the chocolate itself. So do you have a range of products that you particularly like?
Yeah, so I wasn't a big fan of white chocolate for years, and I'm just bringing up white chocolate because you mentioned it. But it was probably a couple of years ago when Denise Castronovo put out her lemon sea salt bar, and that's what got me back to loving white chocolate. That bar, if you haven't had it, is like having like one of those lemon drop candies as a kid. But it's white chocolate, and it's just a fabulous experience. Yeah, I would totally grab it.
Sounds
And try it if
amazing.
you haven't. But that's like one bar that turned me on to white chocolate again. There's some inclusion bars that just wow me. I always like spicy bars. I like the Amaranth Crunch bar with letterpress. That is like I think I have had the entire bar in one sitting in the past. Don't hold me to it. No judgments at all. But I've done it. It's just one of those bars that you have. There's the fleur de sel, the salty factor. You have the puffed amaranth, which is like a nutty factor, and those are flavors that I really enjoy. And like in when I'm in the mood, like that bar is kind of like the end all be all, like go-to bar. Um, I enjoy a wide variety of origins. I don't discriminate against any. I like them all. Um, yeah, and so milk chocolates are a little bit tougher for me because I usually just get the main dairy note unless there's other flavor notes that are like super prominent. Um, but yeah, there's a wide variety in this limited time. Those are some that like stand out to me.
So what do you think is the most unusual inclusion or added flavor that you've tried that actually worked?
Oh, whew. I was gonna say when you said craziest, I was gonna think back to Fasa and the shrimp bar. Uh, you ever have that one?
Mm-mm.
Well, it's like dried shrimp in a bar. Um,
But it worked.
uh, After like two pieces, I was like super excited, and then it's like maybe not a good thing. Like after you just have to let it sit. Just maybe contemplate going back to it. But that was one of the most obscure ones. But there's been plenty of inclusion bars that have worked that were interesting flavors, like Dematis from Chocolate Naive. He's done like mushroom. Um, he's done a tahini bar, and I'm just like, what? Like that's insane. And
Yeah,
like I think it was the porcini mushroom one, and I remember having that like a couple years back, and I'm just like, this guy is like
a genius.
fantastic. Like he's just like he just pulls like these inspirations from wherever and he puts it into a bar. And
Yeah.
I'm sure he's done others more recently. I haven't had a chance to get them, but that was like a memorable one for me that was completely obscure, but yet it worked.
So that makes perfect sense to me. You know, I did that little cookbook with my husband about putting
Mhm.
herbs and stuff in chocolate. One of the recipes that we did was a mushroom risotto arancini, so the little fried rice balls.
Ooh, I like those.
And we infused it all with unsweetened chocolate and cocoa powder. And it just brings out the earthiness of the mushrooms that mushrooms and chocolate to me pair beautifully together.
Mhm. Yeah, completely bizarre. And people who hate mushrooms would probably be like, "You're disgusting and gross," and we're just sitting here like, "Yeah." I did have, it also brings me back to a moment. The first class I had I went to a class at ICE. It was the chocolate lab. It opened up a couple of years ago, and I remember it was like the first class that Michael Skonis had with Roger from. He worked at. He was a chocolate maker at um, what's called that other one of the Brooklyn chocolate makers. Um, Either way, besides the point,
Yeah.
that class, I remember, I think it was that class that one of my friends had a bar that was from Georgia Ramon that was broccoli. Does it come with broccoli? I think Adrian had, maybe that was that class or not another one, but it was a interesting tasting experience. It was like a broccoli soup. The way it was like white chocolate, it was broccoli pieces in there. And I'm just like, wow, I like broccoli. This would work. But I only had it once after that. And after eating it a lot, you're like, whoa, this is way too much. Like you're gonna get sick.
Yeah. So I think that what you're saying is the white chocolate kind of is a carrier for other flavors then, more so than something that has its own rich flavor profile.
Yeah, and other makers have made things work with like milk or white chocolate, milk or dark chocolate. But like those two just those few that I mentioned that were white and the inclusion, it worked. They like balanced in mysteriously, you know, they just figured it out and made it work.
The flavor is such a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
So what do you think is one thing most people don't realize or understand about flavor or developing craft chocolate or anything just dealing with the chocolate process?
Hmm. Can you repeat that? Sorry, I was
What do
spacing
people
out.
not know about chocolate?
Yeah. They don't know the amount of time and effort that goes into it.
That's so true.
Simple as that. They don't understand that there's lots of people involved. They don't understand what's going on at origin. They may have an idea, but when they start to dive into the story behind it, story from the maker, then they get a little bit more exposure. That'll, you know, that's where like people like myself who are educating fit in, because it fills in that gap for them. That helps. It's like that trigger that makes you go buy that impulse, that make that impulse buy to buy a chocolate from a chocolate maker instead of just like a Hershey bar or a Nestle bar or something like that.
Yeah. Just the amount of time that goes into making a single batch of chocolate between roasting and conching it is pretty substantial. That was one of the things I was playing with in my book. It's a murder mystery, obviously, so you had to have something happen. And because they think there might be evidence in her melanger, they wind up draining it when the chocolate is like almost finished. And there's this heartbreaking moment for her. And I'm like, I hope it gets across to the audience because that's so much work involved.
Mm-hmm.
So what's
Yeah.
the most delicate part of the chocolate making process that you would be like, no, I lost the work because I did?
I would think it's roasting initially. That's where where you get, when you get the chocolate, when you get the cacao in the unroasted format in a bag, you know, being shipped from whatever origin, so the fermentation and drying has already happened, right? So that's the biggest, some of the biggest key components. The 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 um, the roasting process just kills off all the flavors that you don't want and pushes the beautiful characteristics of the bar of that cacao to the forefront. So if you over roast or under roast, it may not bring the most optimal experience for the person. So it's like a make or break there. And then also refining it, it's not like you need to refine well. You need to ensure that the particle size is at a specific micron level, that it's smooth on the palate, that it's uniform. I mean, conching is very important to ensure that all the flavor um, comes out, right? On all of the off flavors, off aromas are dissipated, right? So that is an important part of the process. And if you don't do it, or if you do it too long, you may kill flavors. So it's every part of the process is quite important. They have their own role to play, and in and of itself, if your tempering machine breaks down and you have to hand temper chocolate, like that's important. Like you don't want air bubbles, and you don't want something that's not going to snap at a like supersonic boom. Um, so it's every little step is very important.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good explanation. So one of the other questions that I had for you, and I've been asking this to everybody, what are some of the coolest things you've gotten to do or places you've gotten to go because of chocolate?
It's good point. So I want to say is my ability to travel domestically right now. Um, so in the beginning of my chocolate journey, like I tried to go to Origins several different times, and those trips were all canceled for one reason or another. But I've been like through Fine Chocolate, Fine FCIA, and the FCCI, and based in like the Boston area, FCIA having their meetings on the West Coast, the Northwest Chocolate Festival, the Dallas Chocolate Festival, the DC Chocolate Festival. I've got to go travel around and basically say I travel for chocolate, and I'm there to kind of like create new friendships, nurture my existing friendships, meet up with friends who you haven't hung out with in a while, and just like catch up with people in the industry. I think that's been the fun, exciting part of it. But the one thing I'm excited for, and my fingers are crossed because it's over a year from now, the trip. But I'm gonna be heading to Uganda with Jeff, Abella, and the Mocha Origin team in I think it's like January 2021 or 2022.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2022. So so I'm planning for that. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure this trip is going to go on. Hopefully COVID doesn't last another 2 years. But right now that's gonna take on like that origin trip that I've always wanted to go on to, and also get some education around coffee as well as just experiencing Uganda and their culture. That's something that I'm looking forward to, and I've been looking forward to an origin trip for at least like 10 years now. So it's well worth it.
That's the motive that I gave my character for getting into chocolate in the first place. She wanted a reason to travel and a way to share her love of different parts of the world. And I kind of wanted to keep everything a little bit low key in the first book. So she's a widow and she lost her husband, and they were going to do this together when he retired.
Oh.
So now she's got this whole extra level of motivation to make everything succeed. And the more I talk to people who are in the chocolate industry, nobody ever grew up saying, I'm going to be Willy Wonka. It's always something happened in my life and I discovered craft chocolate and it was amazing, or something happened in my life and I was in the right place at the wrong time and I've just, never recovered, and chocolate is now my life.
Correct. Yep. And basically they start in their kitchen.
Yeah.
99% of the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about winnowing with hair dryers and all kinds of stuff like that.
I did that once, and when I moved out of my Hoboken apartment, I was still seeing husks like years later.
Well, we had read enough to know we took it outside. So we took our hair dryer, we put it on a really big extension cord, and we went out onto the balcony at the time, and we were winnowing into the breeze.
Yep. It's good mulching. Like the husk, it's good mulch, good fertilizer.
Okay, so I got to ask, what is the best chocolate dessert you've ever tasted?
Whew. All right, so two-part answer, right? The first part is, I remember, oh man, the name of the restaurant escapes me, but it was down in Lower Manhattan. It was, so I worked at Brookfield Asset Management for like almost a decade in HR. And my boss and I and our team would go to this one restaurant every so often for like someone's birthday or whatever. And I was there, it had to be, maybe like 2008-ish. There was a butterscotch pot de creme with like chocolate crunchies on there. I mean, I don't remember. I think it was chocolate and butterscotch and pot de creme, the whole experience itself like was amazing, and I never had it ever again, but I wish I had. And I know that place, I think that it shut down or moved to a different theme. And Floyd Cardoz, who was like the executive chef there, he passed away recently. But I know like the whole experience of the restaurant changed, theme wise and everything. So, but you can never get that again. And that was just a moment in time that I wish I had documented more of.
Yeah.
But the second experience, part of this answer is with Michael Asconis and his cult dessert bar when he was doing pop-ups. I've been there, I want to say 2 or 3 times, and every experience was fantastic, phenomenal. I sometimes weep secretly that he's no longer doing it, because you can't go back to that to those experiences. All I have are pictures and like just experiences of like, being there with some people. I think the last time I went with some chocolate maker friends during one of the festivals, I think it was in September, after um, the Salon du Chocolat in New York City. But yeah, that experience, he is like a magician with chocolate, and just pastry is his thing, and he just created some amazing experiences. I couldn't name anything for you, but I totally could share pictures if you need it to make your mouth water. And fantastic, amazing experience.
Yeah, make sure and send along some still shots, and we'll add it to the post.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at that point. Is there anything else you would like to share?
I'm doing a lot of virtual chocolate tastings online through Zoom. Is now a good time to share that?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I have a whole bunch lined up for the rest of the year and into the next year. It's all through my website, chocotastery.shop. I'm also looking to see how I could help help companies, corporate America, non-corporate America companies, provide a holiday party, holiday virtual experience for their employees. So I know that many companies, they have a chocolate. They have a. I'm stumbling over words because I'm excited about it.
Okay.
like normally, like when I was in corporate America, and I still am, we have corporate parties for the holidays. Normally it's like a Christmas party, but it's for the holidays. It's for the year end. And now that everybody's virtual, there's a need for companies to do some type of fun activity or some engagement rather than just having like a happy hour virtually. So doing a chocolate tasting would be an amazing opportunity to have like a 2-hour experience to learn about where chocolate comes from, how it's made, go through a tasting, and provide your employees with a really great thank you for a crazy year, and for sticking around and staying healthy. So yeah, so that's all. You could reach out to me if you're interested in that.
Yeah, it sounds like something you could even carry on into next year, because people with so much social distancing, corporations are probably going to be looking for ways throughout the year to keep their
Team building.
employees together.
I'm your guy. Yep.
So if we want to reach out to you, how do we do that?
So chocotastery.com. Wait, there you go. Chocotastery.com. Just a little bit about, that's my main page. Chocotastery.shop is where I'll have like my virtual tastings listed there. Like all the dates are listed. I have some bars up there for sale. And then on Instagram, I tend to post somewhat often. And then on my YouTube channel, I just dropped a chocolate unboxing video for a couple of seasonal bars from Dick Taylor, which were fantastic. So that was a really cool experience, and I just dropped it this past weekend. So we could drop the link below or wherever on the post for that, because I know that holiday gift giving is coming up, and those are some pretty cool bars to gift out. So yeah. And then on Facebook, they're all at chocotastery.com, at Chocotastery, as you see right there.
Okay, so let's make sure and check out Instagram, YouTube, and Glenn's website. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was great. Thank you.